welcome back to Trista's Reading Room. Today we're looking at Fantastical Moments by Erudessa Gentian. This was published September 4th, 2021. A misfit merman flounders for his purpose. A home health aide discovers her new patient hides a magical secret. Knights, damsels, and dragons, oh my! Plane crashes, wolf packs, mysteries, and more. From steampunk to miracles to fairy tales, come immerse yourself in these fantastical moments. This is a fantasy short story collection, and it is for ages 10 plus. There is not much for content warning. There are a couple fights and deaths in some of the stories, though nothing very gory. One of the stories does deal with very painful chronic pain. You can find ebook and paperback through all major retailers, and you can look at libraries as well. Here's a bit about the author. Erudessa Gentian is a firm believer that clean entertainment can be powerful. Inspired by her love of cultures and learning, she produces dynamic art to spark imagination and touch souls. Erudessa writes in multiple genres, but specializes in fantasy and science fiction. She posts about lifestyle, travel, and so much more on her blog at www.erudessagentian.com. This is the inspiration for her book. She says she has grown very fond of short stories, both for reading and writing. She realized she had enough to put together a small collection in celebration of her first book tour last year. So she did. A couple of the short stories are part of short story series she started. So if you enjoy The Wolfpack's Chosen, Why Me, and Crashed Planes, check out her website for more. What's in a Gift was originally a flash fiction for Havoc, and after the exclusivity expired, she expanded the story to flesh out some of the details she wanted to add in. And here we are. You can find Erudessa on Facebook, Instagram, and on her website. The Wolfpack's Chosen. War of Wolves and Dragons. Atheluf, proud heir to the powerful Blood Wolf Pack, was trapped. He realized belatedly why his kind were forbidden from visiting the human world before coming of age. Until he grew into his powers, Atheluf was practically no different than any regular wolf in England. He was going to be in so much trouble when his father discovered his absence. Hours of slogging through marshes had dyed his rust-colored fur a muddy brown. His small body had grown tired and sore, his paw pads torn from struggling along rough terrain. He'd slipped out of the wolf domain near the Wolfsig estate, hadn't he? Or had he miscalculated? At the founding of England, the dragons had granted their blessing to the first king, Athelstan Drake, and his family. They declared that a single chosen from each generation would be gifted with enhanced speed, strength, and the magical dragon's breath. In turn, the wolves decided to pick their own chosen from the bloodline of the king's best friend and most powerful supporter, the Honorable Duke James Wolfsig. But wolves and dragons are notoriously hard to please, so whilst the dragon's gifts were inherited from generation to generation, the wolves could, and often did, go hundreds of years before acknowledging a chosen. Ever since he was a pup, Atheluf dreamed of finding the next chosen. He had snuck into England today, hoping to observe the current Wolfsig members. Surely they had produced a worthy candidate or two over the last 1,000 years. But right now, his body was weary from traveling. Catching a whiff of something delicious, Atheluf followed his nose to a hanging deer carcass. Humans could wait. Right now, he was hungry. Atheluf gathered his haunches underneath him and gave a powerful leap. His razor teeth clamped down on the raw flesh. But as soon as his weight started to drag the deer's body down, Atheluf heard a hiss from above. Startled, he let go of the deer, falling straight into a large metal contraption. With a final blast of steam, the cogwheel mechanism locked into place. Suppressing a frightened howl, Atheluf strained against the thick sides. Fruitless. A whine of anxiety escaped as he desperately clawed at the bars. A young female voice interrupted his efforts.
"Vincent, you know Papa doesn't like you trapping animals."
"Uncle doesn't appreciate my progressive genius. Those old-fashioned hunts he loves so much are doomed in the wake of steam-powered inventions." The haughty young boy stomped through the trees, closely followed by a plump little girl. Both children froze when they caught sight of the snarling Atheluf. The girl had a thick head full of curly red hair, and her green eyes held both shock and worry. Her lacy brown dress spoke of nobility. Vincent's fine tweed suit was covered in broken branches and leaves. His brown hair glinted with auburn highlights. "I caught a wolf!" Vincent crowed in delight. "Not even Uncle will be able to deny me this!" Vincent spun around and disappeared back into the trees, whooping and hollering. The girl glanced nervously toward her departing cousin, before swiftly moving toward the trap. Avalov snarled louder and made a swipe for her pale arm.
"Please wait, Mr. Wolf."
Her soft voice soothed his growling to a low rumble.
"I'm trying to help, I promise. We are supposed to treasure wolves in this family, but my cousin merely wishes to use wolves as another stepping stone to more power. He won't take care of you. He will use you."
Her little fingers finally unlocked Athalov's prison. Athalov sprang out of the trap, but was hesitant to leave the little girl. He liked her voice and wanted to express his gratitude for her help, but the sound of twigs being broken underfoot made his hackles rise. The girl paled. Vincent was coming back.
"Go! Run!"
she begged. Athalov quickly nuzzled her cheek, then turned and ran soundlessly into the brush. He soon collided with something the size of a horse. Oh dear. Athalov crouched before his father in repentant submission. Before the lecture could start, they heard angry voices, a sharp crack, then a cry of pain. Athalov tried to jump up, but his father's paw held him sprawled to the ground.
"Father, she helped me,"
he pleaded. It felt like an eternity passed before Athalov's father picked him up by the scruff and bounded with him toward the voices. They crouched behind bushes to watch what was going on. Vincent and two adult men stood around the crying little girl. She held her cheek while a trickle of blood ran from her lip. Athalov growled, but quieted when his father's paw landed on his back again.
"Not yet, son."
Strong amber eyes studied the humans.
"They are wolf-sick."
Athalov's eyes widened with excitement. The girl could be their next chosen.
"How dare you let Vincent's catch go, Yulva?"
One of the men roared. Yulva Wolfsig. Athalov mulled the name in his head.
"I like her, father."
Athalov felt a rumble of approval.
"But Uncle, Papa!"
Yulva stifled her sobs.
"What if it was a wolf?"
"Then even more reason to keep it."
Vincent shook her.
"They could have made me their chosen."
Anger rolled off of Athalov as the group dragged Yulva off, still berating her. He struggled to go after them, but his father somberly shook his head.
"You can't help her yet. Come home and call a council. She will have to wait for the pack."
Athalov reluctantly followed his father further into the woods. For more information about War of Wolves and Dragons, go to erudessagentian.com/writing. Alive. I was 5 the first time breathing felt like flames ripping my chest apart. Since then, mysterious illnesses crop up one by one. Pain lit up my right hip, while my left side periodically went numb. Eventually, I lost all feeling in my left foot. My spine fused together, making smooth movements nigh impossible, and I've lived with a constant roar in my head for the last 5 years. To top it off, I sometimes convulse helplessly, like I'm being possessed. My parents and I have been to the most powerful and expensive medics on all 3 inhabited planets. But no one has been able to figure out what is truly wrong with me, much less why it happened or how to help me. They couldn't find any curses, no antidotes, no answers. Medics, coming from the high-class Forgor species, think themselves all-knowing and all-powerful. They hate cases like mine because my existence proves them to be as fallible as any other race. I hug my coat tightly around me, unable to control the intense pain spikes and the irritating buzz of my oversensitive skin, before being jostled around the crowded street again. I normally avoid people in general. Not only does my plethora of chronic illnesses make daily living a hellish chore, I also hate being labeled the diseased girl. It's not like I asked to spend the last 20 years in a fog of pain, and nothing I have is contagious, thank you very much. I thought I had stopped expecting deliverance long ago, but apparently there's still an idiotic sliver of hope deep inside me. Why else would I have traveled hours to see this new medic everyone raves about? Rumors talk about his healing power, practically radiating off of him. It's true. Maybe just meeting him will bring me respite. Most medics can only help 10 people before needing to rest, although I suspect part of that comes from their hatred of being touched. But reports claim this prodigy had cured an entire village in one sitting. I sigh and shuffle into the long line of others, waiting to see Medic Aaron. Maybe instead of being hopeful, I'm just desperate. Perhaps when this ends in another soul-crushing disappointment, I really will crawl off and let myself die, like I know everyone wishes I would do. Judging from the talk swimming around me, Medic Aaron sounds unbelievable. I pray he actually sticks around long enough for me to approach him. Everybody knows medics are power-hungry, but if you believe his fans, Medic Aaron truly seems to care more about the populace than lining his pockets. I study the prodigious medic as I limp closer with the moving line. He certainly appears like a typical Fogor medic, staying seated behind a small table. Nearly 7 feet tall, ashen gray skin, short blue hair. But good heavens, he's smiling at the people, greeting him. I blink in surprise. Normally, medics view the regular populace with a cold disdain. In all my years of traveling from medic to medic, I don't think I've ever seen one smile before. When my turn finally arrives, I lean against the table. My limbs ache from standing for so long. A town guard glares at me, but since my face clearly spells out the pain I'm in, they allow me to use the table for support. Hello. Medic Aaron smiles at me. I'm taken aback at the warmth in his eyes, especially coming from a medic. Even other humans only scrutinize me with pity or disgust. I force my stiff facial muscles to smile back and try to answer his polite questions, but it's made difficult by my seldom used swollen throat. What is troubling you? Medic Aaron asks kindly. What isn't? My rough voice grates in my ears. As we talk, I stealthily shift my right foot forward, my movements hidden by the table. Maybe he won't notice if I just tap his toe quickly. If a piece of his power can relieve even a smidgen of pain, anything would be better than the agony I live with. But even though I barely brush his foot, I know there is no hiding it from him. His eyes widen as we both realize what I've done. I'm frozen, not only in fear but in disbelief, because the moment I touch him, my body becomes whole. My spine straightens, the ache leaves my limbs, and feeling floods into my left side, which only adds to the dizzying sensation of all my torment flying away. I didn't know the absence of pain could make my breath stutter. I don't understand what's happening. I can't even begin to decipher the whirlwind of emotions flooding through me. That's enough, the guard barks, pulling me off to the side. Your time is up. My eyes stay locked on Medic Aaron, who gives me a beaming smile before turning to the next in line. My breath catches. He's not going to say anything? Shouldn't he be outraged? Shouldn't he be disgusted? I stumble a few steps out of the way, not accustomed to the full use of my limbs. I bend my back this way and that, reveling in the freedom of movement. Tears flow when I softly touch my face, and I don't wince in pain. I cry harder when the salty liquid doesn't burn my skin. I glance around to see several people watching me, but their eyes hold no repulsion, only understanding. Barely seeing through my bleary eyes, I face Medic Aaron. Thank you, I manage to utter through my sobs of disbelief, knowing full well the distance between us should prevent my words from reaching him. Yet still, he glances at me with a soft smile on his lips, assuring me the message was received and understood. His final nod before turning back to the crowd cascades over me like a blessing. I practically float away, head held high. For the first time in 20 years, I feel like a person again. I am perfectly and fully alive. And that is it for today. If you want to hear more of this on Trista's Reading Room, let me know below in a comment. Thank you for joining me and have a great day.